As the rain fell to mask our disappointment at last weekend's typical defeat at the hands of Harrogate, we thought our chances were slim. But thanks to a very late Crewe penalty last night, the Stags have not one but 3 mathematical opportunities to finish in the playoffs after all. But being mathematical equations means it's not just as simple as winning. Clough's men need to rely on one other team losing. Draws will not be enough, whilst they themselves need to score X amount of goals depending on which team slips up to match in this order: goal difference, goals scored, and then head to head. Let's not even think about that with Salford. Tonight we'll delve into all of that as we ditch the virtual world for my back room to recap another horrible afternoon against Harrogate, end of season awards, belief and much, much more in between. As always, your comments, questions, opinions and observations are welcomed and valued in the live feed, so make sure you get them in and have your say on your team. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast, proud to be part of the TalkSport fan network and hoping that miracles do happen. Hawks, Laps, we're looking at you two. And we are quite literally looking at Hawkins and Lapsley because we've got them in the room with us, thanks to Nick, who's come back for us tonight. Welcome, hello, and welcome to the Mansfield Matters podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. The first time in a long time that we've actually been in the room together. I think it's actually the first time that we've done it at this house. I fully intended when I moved here to do this more regularly, but we've just done it online. But tonight I've got us all in the room. So let's say hello and welcome to Mr. Alan Wilson, the man of the awards.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
Let's say hello and welcome to Mr. Clive Parkin, who is the reason why we're 15 minutes late.
And I thought I was 15 minutes early. But good evening, everybody.
It depends which side of the fence you sit on. And a warm welcome back to not only the Mansfield Matters podcast, but this estate. Welcome back to your old haunts. It's Nick of Mansfield Town Shirts fame.
Thank you very much, Craig. Back by a reasonably popular demand, I think.
Yes, very
averagely,
reasonably, yeah, something like that. Yeah. As always, we invite you guys at home to have your say on your team in the live feed. So please do come and join us and have your say on your team as we talk all things Mansfield Town. Well, let's start before we delve into maths, because I'm going to let you behind the scenes. We've got a little table in front of us here at Mansfield Matters headquarters, where we've got the drinks all in various Mansfield Matters mugs from down the years. We've got biscuits, which everyone's brought to join in with. And then we've got various bits of paper, league table printouts, playoff dates, podcast predictions tables, permutations. We're going to delve into all of that later on, but we need to start by talking all about Harrogate. Yes, Harrogate, not Harrogate, Harrogate. Nick, let's start by looking back on Saturday. Typical Mansfield fashion, wasn't it? You know, we needed to win to sort of keep ourselves in the mix. And whilst we still have a chance as it stands going into the final day, would have been a lot happier walking away from One Call Stadium at 5 p.m. with a win under our belt rather than that.
Yeah, it was poor, wasn't it? I think I summed it up halfway through. If you'd have asked which team needed to win to get into the playoffs and which team were comfortably sat near the bottom of the table, I think you'd have been hard pressed to work out which one was which. We just didn't go for it, did we? We weren't ruthless enough. We didn't go for it. They were a reasonably average side who were, we'd have scored early doors. I think that would have been the game done, but we made it very difficult. With the own goal was very unlucky. I don't think you can really moan at that, but we were just very poor after that. And I think the team selection and a few things around formation didn't help. But yeah, we just didn't go for it. And then we just needed to come out of the traps in a home crowd and just go for it. And unfortunately, we didn't, did we?
Clive, one of the things we sort of said last week was that the hardest team to play against is those who have got nothing to play for in terms of league position, those who are playing for the contracts and playing for the futures. And that's exactly what we faced in Harrogate.
Yeah, they arrived with no fear. They got a reputation of beating us anyway. And they met a knackered side on the day. And that killed goal, that own goal. I mean, he's rubbish. Why we signed him, I've no idea. But we still won on injuries.
I don't quite think you get points in the league table for that, because if you did, we'd have been promoted in December. I think it was frustrating to watch as well. And I think, like we were saying last week, they are going to throw the bodies on the line, and that's exactly what we saw. We're thinking when that goal goes in early doors and we get the lead, this could be our moment, this could be our afternoon, and then, it all just sort of goes badly wrong. But I think we were maybe a little bit rocked by the news about Elliot Hewitt, weren't we? Which obviously came after the game, but we knew that he was missing for Saturday anyway. And, we were saying last week, without Hewitt, we just simply can't do it.
Yeah, somebody said, without Hewitt, you blew it. I thought that was quite good, that one. But, really poor first half. They didn't come out the traps like Nick said. Second half was a lot better. It was Alamo, chucking everything at it. But things didn't fall for us. Like we know that. We're all there. We saw it. And also, like you said, the bodies on the line. It was unbelievable the way they were chucking themselves in front of the ball, and it worked. Simple as.
Yeah.
We just weren't quite good enough on the night.
And the worst
on
thing,
the afternoon.
The worst thing came afterwards, Clive, when we got the news about Elliot Hewitt, rumoured to be out until next year. So we're looking at least January, February time. And even then, by the time he gets himself ready to be in a state where he can come back and play, are we ever going to see the same Elliot Hewitt?
It's a difficult one to call. I mean, he's a young, fit bloke. He's been our best player on merit. He's injured. It's one of the worst injuries a professional footballer can have. And how you come out the other end depends on how you looked after during that period of time. But he's out until February. So I don't expect to see anything of him competitively next year at all. So we have to buy. And I will say this, and I'm not here to have a go at Clough, because Clough's had to work with what he's got. But the fact that he played on the wrong side of the field, I think, brought the likelihood of him getting injured greater. Because he was having to try and deal with situations in an unnatural way, and on the right hand, if he'd been playing on the right hand side, he certainly wouldn't have been injured because he wouldn't have been in that position. But I think also we would have found the team playing a bit more aggressively. So I am critical of Clough playing him in that left back position. I understand why he's done it, but I think that you've got the lad who played right back, Johnson. I understand he can play left. I would have sooner taken fewer risks by putting him in that position. But what do I know? At the end of the day, Clough is paid to make those decisions, and he made that decision. I don't agree with it, and I know with the benefit of hindsight, if he'd done it my way, he would have still have had you next week.
It's a difficult one to ponder, Nick, isn't it? Because he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't. But all things considered, you do have to question whether or not where all these injuries are piling up from, and whether or not these factors have been led by those in the dugout.
Yeah, I think there's a combination. I think we've got to look at some of the training. There has to be some link between training injuries, because I know we get a lot during the game, but they all seem to be contact. Even the ones in training seem to be contact injuries rather than muscle. And a lot of the time we've been playing players who are tired. That comes down to, as Clive was talking about, we can look at playing players out of position, bringing players back when they shouldn't come back. Maka is a perfect example. We didn't do that with him once. We did it twice. And I think that general small squad has made it worse because players were playing when they shouldn't have. But left back, I think like Clive said, you could have played Johnson. We had Wallace. We've got Law. You had Bowery. All those. You had 3 left backs who could have been on the bench, who could have all played left back. And I think Clough has got some explaining to do. Whether he gets asked the right questions, I don't know. But in terms of why he's played players in certain positions at certain points of the season and why players have been rushed back when seemingly they didn't need to be.
I think Clough, we'll have the conversation probably next week when it's the end of the season review about his future and things like that. I know he's probably in talks for his next contract, etc. But it has been an unfortunate common theme, Alan, of Clough's tenure, the stubbornness, because I think Nick makes the perfect point there that he had 3 other options. Whether or not they were the strongest candidate to play left back or not remains to be seen. But in terms of protecting the minute nature of that squad, those decisions have ultimately proved costly. I think the biggest one for me is the McLaughlin one, because that could potentially be also his career done, considering his age.
I'm going to say he was limping. He'd got the full knee brace on the last time I saw him. But I'm not going to say Nigel should be doing it. I'm not saying he shouldn't be doing it, and I'm not going to sit on the fence. But we don't see what happens day to day, do we? That's the only thing I can say, because I agree with Clive. If the Johnson lad, Callum Johnson, is it?
Yeah.
If he can play left back, I would have sooner him played left back because I like Elliot Hewitt at right back.
To be honest,
You know,
I'd
because-
have rather have played Danny Johnson left back than Elliot Hewitt and to keep him on the
Because,
right hand side.
you know, it's been quality all season down the right. But, you know, for whatever reason, he probably thinks Elliot, you know, being the player of the season, he can do a job. He can do a very good job, which he did, to be fair to him. But I also thought on Saturday, I thought personally, in my opinion, that was Callum Johnson's best game
yeah,
for the Stags. I thought he had a good game Saturday.
yeah, it's a tough one to ponder, isn't it? Because when you do lose Hewitt down that right hand side, you do want someone to come in and replace him. But it's that thing of if he's fit and available, as he was when he got injured, you leave him there. You don't move him to accommodate someone else. It's vice versa. It's the wrong way round of, you know, it's like building a house from the top up, from the roof downwards, isn't it? Rather than trying to build it from the foundations.
Yeah, I would
It's never gonna
agree.
work.
I would agree to a certain extent. But like I said, we don't see what happens day to day. He's obviously got his reasons for putting him there. And, you know, that some of those reasons we'll probably never know.
Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. Don't let it just be us four chatting away here at HQ tonight. Marie's been in touch and says, I hope they don't try to rush Hewitt back too soon. He'll be a massive loss to us, but it's a huge injury and extensive rehab. You can't speed up the healing process no matter who you are. And Tracy says, I hope the biscuits are half decent. Not half, Tracy. Decent selection. We've got Fox's Golden Crunch creams, custard creams, and Co-op Bakery Millionaire shortbread bites. Jolly good work. I like it. Good, excellent selection. Let's have the biscuit jingle.
Oh,
One thing I can say, though, Craig, is that Elliot Hewitt, I've got it on good authority, is the fittest lad in that changing room.
was.
So that, well, yeah, but it
Probably
bears-
still is,
you
Clive.
know, it's a good note that is to, you know, because he'll be okay. I'm confident he'll be okay.
Quick snap poll. Elliot Hewitt playing on crutches at right back or Lucas Akins at right back? That's where Clough will go to next, isn't it?
He won't be playing.
So there we go. Obviously, Al, you saw him on Saturday because you were doing all the end of season awards. Was the half part of you which was tempted to make him go back and hobble over to the group every time you were going, and the winner is Elliot Hewitt?
Well, as soon as we got there, obviously we saw the stage, and the stage was so high, and I thought, well,
I mean on the pitch on Saturday, not awards night.
oh, sorry,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, on the pitch,
Yeah.
no, because I thought they were just going to bring him out in some sort of chair, you know, like a wheelchair or something.
Wheel him out, lads!
bless
Come
him.
on, wheel him out!
Because he'd got
Wheel him
all
back.
I'd looked at my script and I knew he'd got all the awards, so we needed somebody to help him back with all because he were on the crutches. But
Apparently, Mez wouldn't lend him a wheelbarrow.
oh, right. But fair play to him, you know, he came out and deservedly won all the awards.
It did. It was quite funny because like every time you were rattling through it, it was just like, guess who it is? And you left on the last one. You left a pause, and I said to the guy next to me, I went, Kieran Wallace, Kieran Wallace, Kieran Wallace, Kieran Wallace. Come on, please be Kieran Wallace, because we had a little bet, didn't we? Before. I'm disappointed you didn't take it up because Nathan had the check ready to go.
Yeah, well, this is it.
Can I just say that it's the curse of the Player of the Year, this, isn't it?
It
2 years
is.
on the trot.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, Nick, isn't it? Stephen McLaughlin.
Yeah,
last
Macca last
time round.
season, yeah.
Elliot
yeah.
Hewitt this time round. Next year, can Danny Johnson? I mean,
I've got a feeling he might not be here to receive that
I
particular award.
suspect
Be
Danny
here.
Johnson's playing days at Phil Miller are over.
it's well.
If you could argue they ever began.
Yeah, exactly that. Let's go back and talk a little bit more about Harrogate. Keep your comments coming in. Have your say on your team. I don't know what the most frustrating thing of the afternoon was for me, Nick. I can't put my hand on whether it was the own goal, the tiredness, or just the fact that Harrogate, with nothing to play for in terms of league position, had arguably the game of their season. I think it's probably a combination of all three, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Harrogate, it does it every time. But every time we play them, it's the same. I think it was we played them 6 times, lost 5, drawn once before Saturday. And I'm not normally a big believer in bogey teams, but they seem to be ours, if anybody. Certainly
Sutton,
does.
isn't it?
Sutton used to be Yeovil when they used to beat us every time at home. The annoying thing for me really was the fact that we just had the one up front, and I think it looked really obvious for me that we needed to change, and we needed 2 up front just to get the ball was kept coming back. We kept clearing it up front, and then it kept coming back. We tried swapping Oates and Akins around, again didn't really work, and I think We then in the second half changed to the formation that we played last season, the sort of 4-4-2 diamond formation. And I thought we looked infinitely better in the second half because the ball didn't come back, but it's too late. Teams like Harrogate, if you give them a goal lead, alone a 2-goal lead, they'll just sit back, and they were going down, they were getting injured, the goalkeeper was taking 20 minutes. They're just the sort of team that you don't want to go 1-0 down to because you just know what's going to happen, and that ultimately is what happened. But the players just really tired, aren't they? But that kind of then is even more frustrating when I know we made 4 substitutions this game, but there's been other games like Grimsby, which was 2-3 weeks ago, where we didn't make any changes till right near the end. So there's a lot of frustration. I think you can see the players are really tired. It is a bit of an exceptional season with the World Cup. We kind of forget that was lobbed in there at one point as well.
That didn't affect us though, did it? Really?
Not really, but it does kind of. It seems like throughout the whole pyramid, players just look very leggy and tired until they play Mansfield, of course, and then they don't. Like Leighton Orient looked leggy and tired after they played us, but not while they were playing us.
I hope they don't look leggy and tired on Saturday. Could do with them being, on the game on Saturday.
They won't be there, will they?
No.
Well, they've had a 3-day break, haven't they?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Well, they've had 9 days between fixtures as well, which is a bit unique.
A nice 3-day break, so they should have got all that out of the system. I would imagine they'll get the trophy, the cup, whatever it is you get, on the day. Everybody will be euphoric. Get it sorted.
They had a 90-minute break at Mansfield, didn't they, a couple of weeks ago? That really wasn't very testing for them, was it?
Yeah. But even then they won.
Harrogate did what Harrogate does. It's got this tall back line that anything coming at them in the air, they were winning easily. And we didn't have that burst of pace anywhere to get past them. And
that's what we're lacking.
It is, and that's the difference. And I have to say, and this is a positive thing, we finished 8th with an outside chance of finishing 7th, with a team that's absolutely wrecked in terms of availability of fit players. And I think that is commendable under the circumstances. Whatever our views about selectivity, about the strategy, about the formations, about Clough's attitude, or whatever they are, the fact is it's not been a terrible season. And a lot of fans don't seem to realise that. And all I would say is ask yourself this. Would you rather be watching your home games at Hartlepool and at Rochdale, or moan about being in League 2 again next season with Mansfield? And I think next year, I do think Clough will be on board for next season, and he'll have 2 more windows, and that's the acid test as far as I can see.
Yeah, it will be a big summer if he does stay on. We'll talk about that, of course, more in the end of season review, which will probably be this time next week. But you never know, because miracles sometimes do happen. Who'd have thought, that going into the last day of last season, that Bristol Rovers would have finished 3rd and put 7 past Scunthorpe or whatever. So there you go. Simon in the comments says players looked very leggy. It wasn't until the second half with the subs that brought some energy onto the pitch. Now, this is, for me, where the frustration sort of sets in a little bit, Alan, because I understand on one hand that you want to try and protect those players that are coming back from injury and who can only maybe give you 45, 50, 60 minutes. But on the other hand, you've got at this point 3 games in the season, 2 games in the season to go, and it's all or nothing. You need to win. They made a huge difference when they came on. The likes of Ollie Clark really lifted us. He was the player. His shirt wasn't amber when he went off the pitch. It was ditched black-brown, wasn't it, and caked in mud. That would be a great one for your collection. But, I get resting them and easing them back in October, November. But with 2 games to go, why did he not start those players and then just do the opposite and drag them off after 60, 70? Because surely at that point, if he starts them and we start with the energy which we saw in the second half, we get the advantage. Then we've got something to defend, and then adrenaline kicks in. Again, it's house built from the roof downwards again.
Like I said before, Craig, we're never going to know the answer to that, are we? Nigel does what Nigel wants to do. It's as simple as that in the end. But did it make a difference when they all came on? They absolutely looked at, I know 4 different players, obviously, but they did look a different team. That they did.
I guess it's that lack of adventure that most fans criticise the manager for. I know he's had to work with very difficult circumstances, most of which are outside his control. But as he proved, if you just put those fresh legs on earlier, even if it was only for a period of the game, the outcome may well have been different. We won't know. It's conjecture at the end of the day. But I'm at the situation now where we've got 1 game to go. We should just throw ourselves at it, They'll be well supported down at Colchester on Monday. In fact, it's ironic, isn't it? Immediately after the Harrogate game, people were trying to sell their Colchester tickets.
And now they're trying to
And
buy
now
it
they're
back.
clamouring for coach seats to go to Colchester. That's Mansfield fans for you. But there'll be over 1,000 of us there on Monday. And it'll be a bit of fun. And I think we should go for it. If by any form of miracle we can find ourselves 3 or 4 goals up, my God, what are we going to do? I don't know. I should have to sit down somewhere.
The answer's clear, isn't it, Nick? Start Kieran Wallace.
Up front.
Yeah. I have said numerous times on this podcast since January that Kieran Wallace will get us promoted, right? There is still hope. Right, imagine this. It's the 90th minute or whatever. Bradford, they are losing. They're losing 1-0, right? No, they're losing 2-0, right? So we need just 1 goal to go level on goal difference and get above them on goals scored. We're drawing 0-0. They've lost 1-0. It's extra time. In comes the corner. It's headed away. And there, Wallace, bang, top corner. Wallace's whopper.
Of his own net.
You see, this is where we desperately need Hartigan.
Can somebody just get Craig a bit of a nudge?
He's drifting off again.
Excited, bless him.
If you're gonna be radical,
Listen,
I think
you lot have slagged me off all year for being pessimistic. I'm optimistic now. Let's go, galvanised.
Yeah, all right.
Are you taking the bell with you?
Yes, I'm going to take the bell with me.
Can I just say that I think Monday is a good just throwing anything we've got at it. And I'd put Abdullah on the bench and give a run out. Yeah.
Do you think? Going. We've literally got no choice.
And
He's playing up front.
he's not on.
I don't think anyone would moan if we went for it and we're 2-0 down after this, would we? No,
I'd rather finish than
100%.
not. Right. Get to the big one. Play like Kilgore up front for flick-ons. Just sit Wallace and Perch at centre back. 2 slowest. That's all we need. Just like buffers. I've got this right, Nigel. If you watch him, right, this is what you
Yeah,
do you reckon he is?
He's always watching this.
You never know, right? You never know who's watching.
Stranger things have happened.
Listen, there was a time earlier in this. What I'm saying is that
Can I just say that we do have regular viewers from Portugal. I'm saying no more
and yet
than
he's still in a job. Anyway, keep it going, keep it coming in. We're just going to switch microphones. These sound a little bit dodgy. I don't quite know what's going on. Oh, I know what's happening. My internet cable has come out. That's fun, isn't it? Bear with us 2 seconds. Let me just change this. And then that should sound better in a second. There we go. Hopefully that's better for you all at home. I'll listen to it in because it's a couple of minutes behind. Let's go back to some comments. Simon says, agree achieved this season with the injuries and been an unlucky season. Hopefully our luck turns this weekend. Absolutely. We do have to do it. It's got to throw caution to the wind.
Yeah, I really hope we do. I don't know whether we will do, but it's just for me, it's just more man up front. Just wingers, strikers. Yeah, that's what we need, I believe. But whether we actually do it or not is another matter.
Who would you actually play up front?
Swan.
Yeah.
How fit the man is. Yes. With wingers, with 2 wingers. I don't know how that fits in whether it's 4-4-2. But I just would like to see somebody with a face up front. Right, and somebody else on the left.
Chickens and
I'm just going to leave it there for 2 seconds. We're going to refresh the stream and come back. There we go. Anyway, keep it